How's it going, everybody? It's Eong here, and welcome to a Death Stranding news update. The following information comes from episode 4 of HideoTube, where Hideo Kojima and Kenji Yano shared some interesting new information about Death Stranding and its recently revealed trailer. I recommend watching the whole episode. It was actually quite fun, but if you just want a rundown of the information regarding the game, then here it is, all the new stuff. So one of the things that they did is basically they just show the trailer, and Kojima talked a bit about what his intentions were with certain shots. So he began by talking about the poem at the beginning, and he basically stated that he wanted concepts like a grain of sand, heaven, palm of the hand, and eternity to stay in the viewer's mind. So words like those will be somehow very important in the grand scheme of things. How? Hard to say, but keep those words in mind for future reference. Then, as the camera pans, he talked a bit about the crabs. The ones at the beginning in particular were meant to look like human ribs, so there's gotta be some kind of symbolism behind that. I'm thinking that maybe it's something to do with religion, with how a rib was pulled from man to create the female, but it could be something else entirely. I'm not sure. I'm gonna have to look into it. But if you know what these ribs could symbolize, definitely let us know in the comments below. As the camera pans, we see a couple more crabs, and this big one right here apparently was modeled to look like a human face. And then this next one here was meant to look like the palm of a hand, which ties into William Blake's poem from the beginning of the trailer. Then Kojima talked a bit about the Norman Reedus character and how he's cuddled up like a newborn and how that was intentional. Now, something that Kojima stated a while back is that he's planning to change the notion of death in video games. So I'm wondering if this imagery has something to do with the Norman Reedus character being reborn somehow. Very interesting indeed. Then, as the trailer keeps playing, they talked a bit about how the fish seen throughout the trailer were photo captured to make them look realistic, and the same with crabs. Apparently the crabs were originally man-made, so they were modeled via computer, but they looked kind of fake, so in the end, they decided to photoscan them. And interestingly enough, the black sand and the sky were also somehow captured as well. They too were originally man-made, but then they were like, it looks kind of fake, so they went full out and just decided to capture all that. Now, the whales and the dolphins seen throughout the trailer were man-made. And yeah, that makes sense. Scanning whales and dolphins is pretty difficult. Moving on, as the trailer continued, Kojima mentioned how Norman Reedus has no belly button, and this is actually something that I never noticed for some reason. I noticed that he has a cross-shaped scar, but I never realized that he has no belly button and that the scar is actually replacing the belly button. Like, there's no semblance of a belly button whatsoever on Norman Reedus' body. So again, there's this really interesting sense of artificial, like what you're seeing here could have been the product of maybe some kind of alien species or an advanced form of life, maybe the 5 things we see at the end of the trailer. But yeah, Norman Reedus' character has no belly button, which is interesting. Now, according to Kojima, the models are so detailed that if you look closely, you can apparently see things like nose hair and belly hair if you look closely enough. Then, as the trailer continues, Kojima talked a bit about the waves and how they come and go and how that ties into the phrase "I'll keep coming," which he has mentioned before, so that's nothing too new. Now, what's interesting is that he made no mention of the 5 figures floating in the air. He just sort of brushed them off, which makes me think that they're pretty important to the plot, and therefore Kojima doesn't want to talk about them at all to avoid any kind of spoilers whatsoever. Because it's definitely weird that these 5 prominent figures weren't given any mention when they so happen to be one of the most enigmatic things about this footage. And finally, Kojima talked about the Death Stranding title and how it relates to not only beach strandings, but also the idea that something else is coming. And Kenji Yano mentioned that it has other meanings as well, and we talked about some of them before, like how stranding was derived from the word strand, which is kind of like strings, and how when the strands intertwine, they create a rope. And I talked about how the rope is a big theme in Death Stranding, which symbolizes connection, yada yada yada. So yeah, there's that. And their mini-analysis finally concluded with them stating that if you look frame by frame, you'll find other details as well. One final thing that they mentioned later on in the HideoTube episode is that the way the strands are on the letters that form the words "Eat Standing" has nothing to do with this game. Kojima said that that's definitely just a coincidence, and he said the same thing with how the letters can be rearranged to form the words "DNA testing." And basically, they said that there's no hidden messages in the title, so no sneaky phantom pain shit going on here. And yeah, that about sums up all of the new information that Kojima and Kenji Yano provided in HideoTube Episode 4. Now, before I conclude this video, one last thing I would like to point out is that throughout the entire footage, they set it up so that you see Ludens on the left, the baby used for Death Stranding's performance capture in the middle, and DS or Death Stranding on the right. I'm wondering if there's some kind of hidden message going on here. Kojima has done this before. He did this with that shirt that he's wearing, DS, when he showed up for Jeff Keighley's interview right before he revealed the game at E3 2016. And now we've got this very interesting arrangement, possibly suggesting that there's some kind of connection between these three things. And it's even more suspicious that they never mention the baby at all. They just sort of have it there throughout the whole footage and pretend like it's not there. I could be looking too much into things, but again, because Kojima has done stuff like this before, I'm beginning to think that there might be some kind of hidden message here. Maybe the message is that the baby somehow connects Ludens to Death Stranding. The baby is sort of the bridge between those two things. Now, Kojima said before that Ludens has nothing to do with Death Stranding, but that's something that very few people believe because they're putting so much effort in Ludens' character model. And one interesting theory that I've heard is that Ludens might be the baby and not Norman Reedus' character. You know, like a grown-up version or something. And so maybe this is hinting at that somehow, that Ludens is the baby and that's the connection to Death Stranding. Something along those lines. Honestly, I don't know, I'm just throwing stuff out there, but I figured this would be something I would point out because Kojima is Kojima, and he's always one to do stuff like this, so there might be something there. But other than that, I have shared everything that I found in HideoTube Episode 4 regarding Death Stranding, so with that, I would like to end this news update. Thank you for tuning in. Let us know in the comments below your thoughts and theories about all of the new information regarding Death Stranding revealed by Kojima and Kenji Yano in this episode of HideoTube. And to be further updated on Death Stranding news, stay tuned right here on Yong Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Yong out!